The cold steel of the containment chamber pressed against her back as she struggled against the restraints. Her luminous silver hair, streaked with strands that shimmered like liquid mercury, cascaded over her shoulders despite her efforts to remain composed. The princess's emerald eyes, flecked with gold that seemed to dance in the dim emergency lighting, burned with defiance as she stared down her captor. "You think your primitive human technology can hold me?" Her voice carried an otherworldly resonance, each word resonating through the chamber like a crystalline bell. "I would rather perish than bond with any creature from your barbaric species." Commander Alex Rourke wiped sweat from his brow, his standard-issue military uniform damp and clinging to his skin. The ship's artificial gravity fluctuated again, sending vibrations through the deck plates beneath his boots. He took a cautious step closer to the containment field, his trained eyes noting how her delicate-seeming hands flexed against the energy bonds, hands that had reportedly torn through titanium hull plating during her capture. The princess's gown, woven from materials unknown to human science, shimmered and shifted colors with her emotions, now flashing angry crimson waves across its surface. Around them, the research vessel groaned under the strain of whatever cosmic phenomenon had brought them here, a region of space where physics itself seemed to unravel. "I don't want to hurt you," Alex said, keeping his voice steady despite the chaos surrounding them. His hand hovered near his sidearm, but he made no move to draw it. "But I need you to understand, we're both trapped here. Whatever brought us to this place, it's affecting everything." Her laughter was sharp and musical, filled with contempt. "You presume to lecture me on entrapment? This is nothing compared to what my people have endured at the hands of your kind." She leaned forward slightly, causing the energy field to crackle with warning sparks. "Mark my words, human, before this day ends, you will wish you had never crossed paths with Princess Nyara of the Villani." The ship shuddered violently, throwing Alex against the bulkhead. Warning klaxons blared through the corridors beyond, their urgent wails punctuated by the sound of distant explosions. Through the observation windows lining the containment chamber, stars stretched and bent like molten glass, painting the void outside in impossible colors. "Your arrogance knows no bounds," Nyara continued, her voice rising above the chaos. "Do you truly believe you can force one of royal blood to submit? That you can bend destiny itself to your will?" She threw back her head, exposing a slender neck adorned with intricate bioluminescent patterns that pulsed with growing intensity. Alex pushed himself upright, his training kicking in as he assessed the situation. The temperature in the chamber was dropping rapidly, frost beginning to form on the walls, another impossible effect emanating from the alien princess herself. "Listen to me," he insisted, taking another step closer. "Whatever you're doing, it's making things worse. We need to work together if we're going to survive this." Nyara's response was immediate and violent. A surge of energy erupted from her restrained form, causing the entire containment system to flare brightly. The lights flickered throughout the vessel, and for a moment, Alex thought the field might collapse entirely. When the brilliance faded, he found himself staring into eyes that glowed with pure starlight, reflecting centuries of interstellar history that no human could possibly comprehend. The Villani Empire had stood among the stars when Earth's ancestors still huddled in caves, their crystalline cities spanning galaxies while humanity struggled to master fire. Commander Alex Rourke knew these facts intimately, having spent years studying ancient star charts and deciphering alien artifacts. But nothing in his extensive training had prepared him for the reality of facing one of their royal bloodline. Princess Nyara's presence commanded attention in ways that defied scientific explanation. Her very being seemed to warp the fabric of reality around her, bending light and distorting time in subtle ways that made Alex's carefully honed instincts feel unreliable. Standing barely 5.5 feet tall, she nevertheless exuded an aura of power that dwarfed the imposing figure of the battle-hardened commander. Around them, the research vessel Ether's Edge represented humanity's most advanced technological achievement, yet it appeared almost primitive in contrast to the princess's natural abilities. The ship's sleek, modular design incorporated cutting-edge quantum computing systems and experimental gravity manipulation technology, all developed through reverse engineering crashed alien craft. But these innovations seemed laughably inadequate when faced with the living embodiment of an ancient civilization's mastery. Through the reinforced observation windows, the distorted starfield told a story of their predicament. They were caught in what scientists had dubbed a quantum fold, a rare cosmic phenomenon where multiple dimensions intersected, creating pockets of spacetime where the fundamental laws of physics broke down. The ship's sophisticated sensors had detected this anomaly hours ago, but not quickly enough to avoid being pulled into its grasp. Inside the containment chamber, Alex's tactical implant buzzed with warnings as the environmental controls struggled to maintain stability. The temperature fluctuations, the erratic gravity shifts, the electromagnetic disturbances, all stemmed from the princess's involuntary reactions to their shared peril. Each surge of her bioluminescent patterns corresponded with another cascade of system failures throughout the vessel. "I see your kind's primitive attempts at understanding," Nyara observed, her voice carrying traces of amusement mixed with disdain. "Your science cannot comprehend what flows naturally through Villani veins." She raised a slender hand, palm outward, and the air around it began to shimmer with heat distortion. "Centuries before your species emerged from its primordial muck, my ancestors mastered molecular restructuring, temporal manipulation, and dimensional awareness." Alex fought to maintain his composure as he processed this display. His own background as a decorated officer of the United Earth Space Command had taught him to respect, but never fear, superior technology. Yet facing an intelligence that had evolved beyond conventional technological constraints challenged every aspect of his training. The princess wasn't merely wielding advanced tools, she embodied them through millions of years of directed evolution. The ship's AI interface chimed urgently, projecting holographic displays that flickered erratically. Quantum flux readings off the scale. Dimensional stress increasing exponentially. Estimated time to catastrophic collapse. Unknown. These data points painted a picture of their desperate situation, one where human ingenuity alone couldn't provide salvation. "You speak of survival," Nyara continued, her golden-flecked eyes narrowing. "Yet your species has shown little regard for the lives it encounters. Do you know how many worlds have fallen to your so-called exploration? How many ancient civilizations have been reduced to museum exhibits in your sterile vaults?" Her words struck home with painful accuracy. Alex remembered the classified missions, the diplomatic cover-ups, the artifacts smuggled away under the guise of scientific study. Humanity's expansion into the stars had indeed left a trail of broken promises and violated treaties. But standing here, watching the princess's life force literally warping space-time around them, he understood something else. Survival sometimes required compromises neither species was willing to make. The vessel rocked violently again, more severely this time. Warning systems screamed their electronic protests as structural integrity fields flared to maximum capacity. Alex stumbled against the bulkhead, his combat training kicking in as he braced himself against the impact. Through the observation windows, the distorted starfield began to pulse with alarming intensity, the warped light forming patterns that seemed almost intentional. Nyara's bioluminescent markings flared brighter, their intricate designs shifting into complex geometries that matched the pulsing stellar anomalies outside. Her breath came faster now, though whether from exertion or fear remained unclear. "Foolish humans," she spat, her voice cracking with an emotion that transcended simple anger. "You've triggered something ancient, something even my people have avoided for millennia." Alex's tactical implant flooded his vision with urgent updates. The quantum fold was collapsing inward, compressing space-time around them like a closing fist. Gravitational forces were building to unsustainable levels, threatening to crush the vessel between layers of compressed reality. The princess's earlier defiance had transformed into something more primal, a warrior preparing for her final stand. "Don't you understand?" Alex shouted over the growing cacophony of failing systems. "We're both victims here. Your presence is amplifying the fold's effects." He lunged toward the control panel, fingers flying over holographic interfaces as he attempted to stabilize the ship's failing gravity compensators. "If we don't work together, neither of us will survive." The princess's response was immediate and unexpected. With a cry that resonated through every fiber of Alex's being, she unleashed a burst of energy that shattered several of the containment field's emitters. Sparks rained down as warning klaxons blared louder, their insistent wails marking the ship's descent into chaos. For the first time, Alex saw genuine fear in those ancient eyes, not fear of death but fear of failure. "Silence, human," Nyara commanded, her voice carrying an authority that momentarily stilled the storm of alarms. She focused her attention on the swirling patterns of light outside, her body trembling with the effort of maintaining control. "This is no natural phenomenon. Someone has weaponized dimensional boundaries, someone who understands Villani physiology far better than they should." The revelation hit Alex like a physical blow. His mind raced through classified briefings, covert operations reports, the countless instances where human scientists had experimented with alien technologies they barely understood. Could it be possible? Had humanity's reckless pursuit of power created this trap? The ship bucked again, throwing Alex to the deck. Emergency lighting flickered, casting strobing shadows across the princess's increasingly agitated form. "Your ignorance may cost us everything," she hissed, straining against her remaining bonds. "The fold is reaching critical mass. Soon there will be nothing left of this sector of space, nothing left of either our peoples." Through the observation windows, Alex watched as the distorted starfield began to coalesce into a massive vortex, its event horizon crawling with impossible energies. The princess's earlier defiance had given way to something more calculating, more dangerous. Her luminescent patterns shifted again, forming sequences that reminded Alex of ancient encryption algorithms he'd encountered during Black Ops missions. "You think you can solve this with your primitive mathematics?" Nyara demanded, her voice rising above the growing din of failing systems. "This isn't just physics breaking down, it's reality itself unraveling at the seams." She threw back her head, her silver hair floating in the ship's fluctuating gravity as she channeled energy through her body. The containment field sparked dangerously, its emitters overheating from the strain. Alex scrambled to his feet, fighting against the ship's violent movements. "Then tell me what to do," he shouted, desperation creeping into his voice. "You're the expert here. You've lived among the stars while we were still learning to look up at them." His tactical implant flashed urgent warnings about structural integrity breaches, but he ignored them, focusing instead on the princess's increasingly frantic gestures. For the first time since their encounter began, Nyara hesitated. Her glowing eyes darted between the growing vortex outside and the human commander before her. "There is a possibility," she admitted, her voice dropping to a whisper that somehow carried through the chaos. "But it requires trust, something neither of our species has shown the other." The ship's AI core began emitting warning tones and frequencies that resonated painfully through Alex's skull. Main power systems were failing, backup generators struggling to compensate. Through the observation windows, tendrils of raw dimensional energy reached toward the vessel like grasping fingers. The princess's bioluminescent patterns pulsed in sync with these approaching threats, as if she were somehow communicating with the very fabric of reality. "You have 30 seconds to decide," Nyara stated, her regal bearing returning despite their dire circumstances. "My people possess knowledge of dimensional harmonics, the ability to manipulate the fundamental frequencies of spacetime. But to access this knowledge, I must lower my shields completely." She gestured toward the sparking containment field. "Without protection, I would be vulnerable to both the fold's effects and—" her voice faltered for the first time. "And to whatever treachery your species might attempt." Alex's mind raced through tactical scenarios, each more impossible than the last. The princess's proposal carried risks that went beyond mere survival. It threatened to expose vulnerabilities that could shift the balance of power between their species forever. Yet looking into those ancient eyes, he recognized something he hadn't expected. Not just fear of death, but fear of extinction. "The fold is accelerating," Nyara continued, her voice gaining strength. "In moments, it will collapse inward, creating a singularity that will consume everything within parsecs. My knowledge could prevent this, but only if you agree to become my anchor." She extended a trembling hand toward him, the gesture both commanding and vulnerable. "Human physiology operates on different frequency ranges than Velani. Together, we might create a harmonic bridge strong enough to stabilize the fold." Warning lights bathed the chamber in alternating red and amber, their pulses matching the rhythm of Alex's racing heart. He stepped closer to the containment field, feeling the hairs on his arms rise from the raw energy saturating the air. "What exactly are you asking me to do?" he demanded, his military training forcing clarity into his thoughts despite the chaos surrounding them. Nyara's response came in a rush of words that seemed to bypass language barriers entirely, entering his consciousness directly. Ancient mathematical concepts, dimensional theories, and biological imperatives flooded his mind, overwhelming his neural processors. Through this torrent of information, one truth became crystal clear. The princess needed his consent, his willing participation in something far beyond human comprehension. "The choice must be yours," she whispered, her voice trembling with an emotion that transcended cultural barriers. "To bond with you, even temporarily, would violate every law of my people. But to do nothing—" She gestured toward the vortex, now close enough to bathe the chamber in its impossible light. "Would mean the end of everything." As Alex processed this revelation, the ship's structural integrity alarms merged with the princess's bioluminescent patterns into a symphony of impending doom. Time itself seemed to stretch and compress around them, each moment lasting both an eternity and a heartbeat. The decision before him wasn't just about survival, it was about rewriting the rules of engagement between two species separated by eons of evolution and misunderstanding. The princess's extended hand trembled visibly now, not from fear but from the immense power she was channeling through her slight frame. Alex noted how her luminescent patterns had shifted into complex fractal designs, each pulse corresponding with another spike in the ship's quantum flux readings. The air between them crackled with potential energy, charged with possibilities that defied conventional physics. "Do you understand what you're asking?" Alex demanded, his voice steadier than he felt. "This isn't just about saving ourselves, this is about changing the course of two civilizations." His tactical implant warned of approaching critical thresholds, but he forced himself to focus on the being before him. "If we do this, there's no going back. No pretending this never happened." Nyara's response came not in words, but in a wave of sensory information that overwhelmed his senses. He experienced flashes of Vellani history, the rise and fall of empires, the careful stewardship of dimensional boundaries, the sacred vows never to interfere with developing species. Each memory carried the weight of countless generations, yet beneath them all pulsed a current of desperation that mirrored his own. The ship's gravity compensators failed completely, sending both beings floating gently toward the ceiling. Alex's military training kicked in automatically, but he forced himself to remain still, maintaining eye contact with the princess. Their positions had reversed, now she floated above him, her silver hair spreading out like a halo of captured starlight, her emerald eyes burning with ancient wisdom and newfound vulnerability. "You speak of change," Nyara finally responded, her voice carrying echoes of countless ancestors. "But what choice do we have? To preserve our separateness would mean mutual destruction. To act requires." She paused, her expression softening in a way that made Alex's breath catch. "Requires faith in something greater than our fears." Through the observation windows, the dimensional vortex had grown to fill their entire field of view, its surface boiling with patterns that matched the princess's bioluminescent displays. Alex realized with sudden clarity that they weren't just witnessing a cosmic phenomenon. They were seeing the visible manifestation of Vellani consciousness interacting with the fabric of reality itself. The princess's next words came haltingly, each syllable carrying the weight of taboo. "Our people have always believed that true understanding comes through shared experience. That perhaps..." She drifted closer, her hands still extended. "Perhaps our species were meant to meet under these circumstances. Not as conquerors or prisoners but as equals facing annihilation." Alex's tactical implant flashed urgent warnings, hull integrity down to 40%, oxygen levels fluctuating, quantum flux approaching critical mass. Yet none of these statistics mattered compared to the decision before him. He looked into those ancient eyes, seeing not just the weight of royal bloodlines, but the reflection of his own species' potential, for good or ill. The moment stretched, filled with the hum of failing systems and the crackle of dimensional energy. Outside the containment chamber, the ship's crew moved like ghostly figures through strobing emergency lighting, their faces masks of terror and determination. Inside, two beings from different epochs of galactic history hovered in limbo, connected by invisible threads of necessity and possibility. "This changes everything," Alex stated, his voice carrying the weight of prophecy. "Not just for us but for everyone who comes after." He reached out, his hand trembling as it approached hers. The space between them seemed charged with more than just physical energy. It vibrated with the potential for unprecedented cooperation, or catastrophic misunderstanding. Nyara's expression shifted, her regal mask cracking to reveal something profoundly human beneath. "Yes," she whispered, her voice carrying both resignation and hope. "And that is why we must choose wisely. Not just for survival but for the future of both our peoples." Her hand inched closer, the distance between them shrinking with agonizing slowness. The dimensional vortex pulsed in time with their approaching contact, its surface now displaying patterns that seemed to anticipate their decision. Alex felt the weight of command responsibility settling heavily on his shoulders, but also something else. The burden of representing an entire species at a pivotal moment in galactic history. The princess's earlier declaration of defiance had transformed into something far more complex. An offer of temporary alliance wrapped in the promise of permanent change. As their fingertips neared contact, the ship's quantum sensors registered an unprecedented phenomenon. A harmonic resonance building between two fundamentally different forms of consciousness. The princess's bioluminescent patterns intensified, their rhythms syncing with Alex's neural activity in ways that defied conventional biology. Through their almost touch, they exchanged more than physical energy. They shared fragments of cultural memory, evolutionary history, and unspoken fears. Weapons protocols disabled, the ship's AI announced unexpectedly, its calm voice cutting through the mounting tension. All defensive systems offline. Quantum shielding compromised. The announcements came rapid fire, each one highlighting humanity's technological inadequacy in the face of whatever was unfolding between them. Nyara's hand stopped millimeters from Alex's, her entire body trembling with the effort of maintaining control. "This is why we must never bond," she breathed, her voice carrying the weight of centuries-old prohibitions. "Once connected, there is no guarantee we could separate." Her words trailed off as another wave of dimensional energy surged through the chamber, causing both their forms to glow with reflected starlight. Alex processed this new information, his military training conflicting with his survival instincts. The princess wasn't just offering a temporary solution. She was proposing a fundamental merging of consciousnesses, a bridging of species that could permanently alter both their natures. The implications stretched far beyond their immediate survival, touching upon questions of identity, autonomy, and the very definition of sentience. "Your kind has always sought shortcuts," Nyara continued, her voice thick with emotion. "Quick solutions to complex problems. But this would require something different." She withdrew her hand slightly, creating a space between them that crackled with unspent potential. "It would demand that we both surrender pieces of ourselves, not knowing if we could reclaim them afterward." Through the observation windows, the dimensional vortex had transformed into a kaleidoscope of impossible colors, its surface now displaying patterns that seemed to mirror their internal struggle. The ship's structural supports groaned under the strain, metal twisting and buckling as reality itself seemed to question their right to exist in this space. Time slowed to a crawl as Alex considered the princess's words. The tactical decisions he'd made throughout his career, the split-second choices that had defined his command style, all paled in comparison to this moment. Here, floating in zero gravity with an alien princess whose very existence challenged his understanding of reality, he faced a decision that could redefine interspecies relations forever. The princess's bioluminescent patterns shifted again, forming complex mathematical sequences that danced across her skin. Alex recognized some of the symbols from classified research documents, equations that described the fundamental nature of consciousness itself. But others were entirely new, their meanings hinted at rather than understood, like glimpses of a vast cosmic library waiting to be explored. "You speak of sacrifice," Alex said finally, his voice carrying the weight of revelation. "But what if this isn't just about survival? What if it's about evolution?" He reached out again, this time with more certainty. "Your people have maintained separation for millennia. Mine have rushed headlong into the unknown without understanding. Maybe we're meant to meet halfway." Nyara's response came not in words, but in a surge of emotional resonance that bypassed language entirely. Through their almost touch, Alex experienced flashes of Vellani philosophy, the careful cultivation of dimensional awareness, the sacred responsibility of maintaining cosmic balance, the deep-seated fear of contamination through improper contact. Yet beneath these ancient teachings pulsed something newer, something born of their current predicament, the possibility that rigid adherence to tradition might be as dangerous as reckless experimentation. The ship's systems continued their death throes around them, but the noise seemed distant now, like echoes from another reality. Between them, a new kind of silence had formed, one filled with potential rather than absence. The dimensional vortex outside responded to their growing connection, its chaotic patterns beginning to organize into something resembling order. "It would change us both," Nyara whispered, her voice carrying the weight of prophecy. "Not just in this moment but forever. Our species would never be able to return to the comfortable isolation of before." Her hand drifted closer again, drawn by forces neither fully understood. And yet perhaps that is exactly what the universe intends. Their fingertips touched and reality itself seemed to hold its breath. Alex Rourke had always been a man of duty. Born into a military family, he'd spent his childhood moving between space stations and orbital colonies, learning to adapt to new environments and cultures. His natural aptitude for strategy and leadership earned him rapid promotions through the ranks of United Earth Space Command. By 35, he commanded one of humanity's most advanced research vessels, tasked with exploring uncharted regions of space and documenting alien phenomena. Princess Nyara's path was vastly different yet equally shaped by destiny. Born into the Vellani royal bloodline, she was trained from birth in the sacred arts of dimensional awareness and harmonic resonance. Her people, ancient stewards of cosmic balance, had watched humanity's rise with equal parts fascination and concern. When diplomatic relations broke down decades ago, it was Nyara who argued against complete isolation, believing that understanding could prevent conflict. The moment their fingertips connected, a surge of energy unlike anything either had experienced coursed through them. The ship's systems, already pushed beyond their limits, responded to this new harmonic frequency. Emergency lights stabilized, gravity fields reasserted themselves, and the quantum flux readings began to drop. Outside the observation windows, the dimensional vortex slowed its chaotic dance, responding to the emerging pattern of their combined consciousness. Nyara gasped as human emotions flooded her awareness. The complex interplay of fear, hope, and determination that defined Alex's existence. Through their connection, she saw not just his personal history but the entire tapestry of human struggle and achievement. She understood now why her people had both feared and admired this young species. Their capacity for both destruction and creation was unparalleled. Alex experienced something similar but infinitely more profound. Through Nyara, he witnessed centuries of Velani history, their careful cultivation of dimensional knowledge, the sacrifices made to maintain cosmic balance, and their deep-seated fear of contamination through improper contact. He felt the weight of royal responsibility, the burden of representing an entire civilization's values and traditions. Their minds merged further, creating a feedback loop of understanding and adaptation. The princess's bioluminescent patterns shifted again, this time forming intricate sequences that matched the stabilizing vortex outside. "We're doing it," she whispered, her voice filled with wonder. "Our frequencies are harmonizing." The ship's AI core, previously overwhelmed by conflicting data streams, suddenly came online with unprecedented clarity. Holographic displays showed how the combined consciousness of human and Velani was generating a new kind of dimensional stability, one that neither species could achieve alone. Quantum sensors registered a phenomenon never before documented, a stable bridge between different evolutionary paths. "We have to finish this," Alex said, his voice steady despite the monumental shift occurring within him. "Your people's knowledge and our technological capabilities, they're not opposing forces." Through their connection, he sent images of human ingenuity combined with Velani wisdom, showing how cooperation could create solutions far superior to either species' individual efforts. Nyara hesitated, torn between ancient prohibitions and newfound possibilities. But as she looked into Alex's eyes, now reflecting the same starlight patterns as her own, she realized that survival wasn't the only thing at stake. "Very well," she agreed, her voice carrying the authority of her royal lineage. "But know this, if we succeed, everything changes." Together, they reached deeper into the connection, allowing their consciousnesses to fully merge. The chamber filled with a brilliant light as their combined presence extended beyond the ship, interacting directly with the dimensional fold. Time seemed to stretch and compress simultaneously as they worked together, Alex providing the structured approach of human engineering while Nyara contributed the fluid intuition of Velani dimensional awareness. The vortex responded dramatically, its chaotic energies organizing into precise geometric patterns. These patterns pulsed in harmony with the couple's combined consciousness, creating a stable framework that began repairing the damaged dimensional boundaries. Ship systems came back online in sequence, each module recalibrating to the new harmonic frequency. Through their shared awareness, Alex and Nyara witnessed something extraordinary. Their temporary bond was generating a template for future cooperation between their species. The barriers that had kept their peoples apart were dissolving, replaced by a new understanding that respected both Velani tradition and human innovation. As the last traces of dimensional instability faded, the princess slowly withdrew her hand. Their connection remained strong, though less intense than before. "It is done," she announced, her voice carrying both relief and something else, perhaps gratitude. "The fold has stabilized and we have created something unprecedented." Alex nodded, feeling changed in ways he couldn't yet fully comprehend. The experience had left him with enhanced perception, able to sense dimensional harmonics much like the Velani. More importantly, he understood now why Nyara had initially resisted, not out of hatred, but out of respect for what made their species unique. The prohibition against bonding. Nyara began, then paused. "Perhaps it was meant to protect us from losing ourselves completely. But this controlled exchange of consciousness could be the key to peaceful coexistence." She looked around the now stable chamber, noting how human technology had adapted to incorporate elements of Velani design principles. A communication channel opened unexpectedly, filling the chamber with voices from both their species. The crew of the Ether's Edge had witnessed everything, their initial terror transforming into awe as they observed the successful resolution of the crisis. From distant Villani outposts, other voices joined in as scientists, philosophers, and leaders who had monitored the event through their own sophisticated means. This changes nothing about our fundamental natures, Nyara declared to all who listened. But it proves that maintaining separateness need not mean isolation. We can learn from each other without losing ourselves. She turned to Alex, her expression softening. And perhaps in time we can find ways to cooperate that honor both our traditions. The ship's AI core confirmed what everyone already felt. The dimensional fold had not only stabilized but had actually improved local space-time conditions. The crisis had transformed into an opportunity, not just for survival, but for growth and understanding between two civilizations separated by eons of evolution. As emergency protocols disengaged and normal ship operations resumed, Alex and Yara remained in the containment chamber, neither willing to break the fragile trust they had built. Around them, human and Villani observers began tentative communications, sharing data and observations about the unprecedented event they had just witnessed. This doesn't solve all our problems, Alex acknowledged, speaking both to Nyara and to the assembled listeners. But it shows that solutions exist when we're willing to challenge our assumptions. He gestured toward the now clear starfield visible through the observation windows. Out there, there's room enough for both our peoples, if we're brave enough to share it. Nyara placed a hand on his shoulder, the gesture carrying more significance than any formal treaty. Then let this be our first step, she said, her voice resonating with both royal authority and personal conviction. Not as conquerors or prisoners, but as partners in a new chapter of galactic history. The chamber filled with sounds of celebration from both species, though the humans' cheers and the Villani's harmonic resonances expressed joy in distinctly different ways. As Alex and Yara stepped out of the containment field together, they did so as living proof that even the deepest divides could be bridged through mutual respect and shared purpose. In the weeks that followed, the incident became known as the Harmonic Accord, not an official treaty, but a fundamental shift in how humans and Villani viewed each other. Scientists from both species worked together to document and understand the new phenomenon of controlled consciousness merging, developing protocols that allowed for safe, temporary exchanges of knowledge and perspective. Alex continued to command the Ether's Edge, now refitted with hybrid technology that incorporated Villani design principles. Princess Nyara took on a new role as cultural ambassador, helping her people navigate this unprecedented era of cooperation while maintaining their sacred traditions. Their occasional meetings carried the weight of diplomatic significance, yet retained the personal connection forged during their shared crisis. The dimensional fold itself transformed from a threat into a valuable research site, where scientists from both species studied the effects of their combined intervention. What they learned there would eventually lead to breakthroughs in faster-than-light travel, dimensional stability technology, and cross-species medical applications that benefited countless worlds. Perhaps most importantly, the experience demonstrated that survival didn't have to come at the cost of identity. Both humans and Villani emerged from the crisis stronger and wiser, having learned that true progress came not from domination or isolation, but from respectful cooperation. The temporary bond between Alex and Yara had created a permanent change in how their species interacted, one that promised a brighter future for all beings who called the stars home. As the Ether's Edge prepared for its next mission, now with a Villani liaison officer among its crew, Alex found himself looking forward rather than backward. The universe remained vast and full of mysteries, but for the first time in human history, they would face those challenges not alone, but as part of a growing galactic community. And somewhere among the stars, Princess Nyara watched their progress with pride, knowing that sometimes the greatest strength came from embracing change rather than fearing it.